everyone, it's dragonrider, and before I jump into this theory crafting video, I just want to again do a huge shout out and thank you to all of you who have been supporting me and all of my content, and make a really cool announcement. I have been accepted into the Hearthstone creator program as a representative for the Badass Women of Hearthstone. I do a ton of different content and I am like all over in a bunch of different communities, but being able to help build up and grow the community of women in Hearthstone has been something that I've been doing a lot of work in the last few years. So thrilled to announce that. And with that, there will be giveaways, of course. So I will be doing plenty more of those thanks to Blizzard providing codes and different things like that since I am in that program. So stay tuned for that. You can also find one on my Twitter running this weekend. I will be announcing that winner on Sunday night, but I'll have the link for that Twitter post. You can enter there. Thank you so much again. All right, let's check out these priest decks now. And here is the deck that I theory crafted. Now, I will say, I don't usually play like slow, grindy, control priest style decks. Some of my favorite decks were Dragon Priest, and I've been enjoying the like aggressive Shadow Priest. But I figured Shadow Priest is probably still going to be around and not really changing all that much. So I didn't want to just theory craft a slightly different version of that. So what I have here instead is a Menagerie Priest, because why not? And let's check those out. Just some pretty like cheap things here. Armor Vendor, Shard of the Naru, staying in the core set, fantastic card. Neophyte, Cult Neophyte coming into the core set. Of course, if it's a Menagerie deck, I want to have Party Animal for the buffs. Now, those seemed pretty easy. The rest of this was kind of odd. So then I was like, okay, I need some different types, right? I don't know why I feel like I need to fit in a ton of different types, but here we go. Some pirates, but I figured dredging seems good. I can discover something. I really like the Cathedral of Atonement location. It's just solid, and especially with how many minions are going to be in this deck, I think it's going to get a lot of value. So buffing a minion and getting some draw seems great in Priest. Put in a Naga with Herald of the Light. If you cast a holy spell while holding this, restore 6 health to all friendly characters. Seems good. I'm going to have a decent amount of characters, and there's several holy spells in here, so seems good. Of course, for an undead, I wanted to put in Shadowed Spirit. It's going to deal damage to the opponent whenever it dies. This disarming elemental, I wanted a couple of elementals in here. This one hasn't really gotten any play. I don't think you necessarily really want to be like dredging for your opponent and setting their stuff to 6, but it's an elemental, and I thought, well, in the 4-set meta, maybe this might be okay. It's worth a try. And it might be good. It might be terrible, but I'm going to try it and see how it goes first. Now, I did include ETC in this list. I am not like the biggest fan of ETC personally. I don't think it's all that great. Usually I just want to run whatever cards or the kind of one card that I really want. But I think there's a couple in this deck specifically that I kind of didn't want to run necessarily. So I'll go over what's in the ETC band here in just a minute, just to give you more context of the deck before I talk about that. Now, here we have Plague Spreader as an undead. It's a really solid 4-drop. It's an undead, and it kind of also messes with your opponent, so seemed good. Of course, Clean the Scene, just for a bit of removal. I think Clean the Scene, to me, is better than the new 6-cost spell, the Harmonic Dissonance spell for the new set. Dealing either 3 damage to everything and then summoning a 6/6, or dealing 6 to everything and then summoning a 3/3 body. You have to alternate the turns. You don't really get to necessarily pick. This one seemed better, and I think the Infuse can go off pretty easily. So this, seemed decent. And it's a holy spell. Very important. Now, Sylvanas on this website, for some reason, is not showing as an undead minion, but she is undead. I have gone in-game and verified just to make sure, but I was like, I swear she was an undead minion. So yes, she actually has the undead tag, so I figured she could be another undead. And now this part is specifically important for the ETC band, so wanted to bring that up. You know, if you're either destroying something or taking control of something, seems like a solid option. And again, the infuse, I think, could be pretty easy to pull off here. Then going into some of the kind of more heavy minions, Blackwater Behemoth, we're keeping the Colossals. It's a beast, it's some heal, seems solid. One Amalgam Band, of course, you gotta have it. Plus, I think it could be pretty decent just for having, you know, something in my hand that I could play as just some other type. Now, for a couple of dragons, I really like the Concert Promo Drake from the new expansion here, Festival of Legends. It's tradable, it's got decent stats, and the potential finale effect of destroying an enemy minion, especially if it's against like slower decks, seems really solid. So I think this is pretty cool. And I think there's a lot of tradable effects that I wanted to put in this deck, like tradable and draw, just so that if you're not really finding the cheaper stuff early in the game, you can, you know, just tradable and hopefully draw into cheaper things and just kind of cycle back some of the things that you really don't need. Then after that, Ragnaros. I love Ragnaros. Gotta have Ragnaros. And it's an elemental. So, you know, it's a minion type. And plus maybe damage to face. I like it. And then Alexstrasza for a dragon. And of course, the potential of dealing damage to your opponent's face. Or maybe healing if you need it. The reason I bring some of these cards up specifically and talk about their like tag and the minion type is for ETC. The three minions, I actually am choosing 3 minions, not any spells. And the first one is the Rustrot Viper. I think this is going to be pretty solid. It's yet another tradable. It's a beast. And if there is a lot of the, or even enough, of the instrument weapons being played, because every class got an instrument weapon, this might be the time for Rustrot Viper to kind of come back into the meta a bit. Like, Rustrot was used a lot for a while, and then kind of faded out as classes played less and less weapons. But I think this is kind of the point where Rustrot Viper can kind of come back into the meta. So I think just putting the Viper in the ETC will feel pretty good. Then the other one is Tony. Now, I kind of like this idea of Tony, but also I don't know, like, I'm really debating on this one because maybe I don't want to switch the deck because I actually built a decent deck and there's no, like, Warrior has the potential of Tony switching your decks and then doing like Fires of Jinazari and changing everything and destroying things or whatever. But this doesn't. So maybe Tony is just kind of like ridiculous. Like, I don't want to do that, but I think it's funny and I want to play it. So maybe that one kind of gets cut from the choices. But, you know, maybe if there is some sort of combo decks that are really popular or they need a certain, you know, cards, maybe it starts to get a little bit later in the game. You can play the ETC, play the Tony, swap the decks, you know, kind of get their last couple of cards drawn from their deck. And then hopefully by the time that Tony dies, and then you swap the decks back and then their deck is empty. So I think there is potential still, and that's why I want to at least try it. Then the third one is actually Katrina Muerte that is coming into Standard because Katrina is coming back into Core, but they changed it now to be, instead of rezzing just a friendly minion that died, it's specifically resurrecting an undead that died during the game. So if we look back at the minions that I have that are undead minions, I also changed this around quite a bit. I started with some other ones and then I thought, I really want to tailor this. So the only undeads that I have are the 2 Shadowed Spirits, the 2 Plague Spreaders, and then that single Sylvanas. Now, I don't think bringing back the Sylvanas is all that great. It doesn't kind of give you the same like resurrect effects of having a death rattle or something else like the other two do, but it would still be at least rezzing a 5/5. And this is why I said it's important that Sylvanas has that undead tag. Sylvanas could be something that maybe I take out if I end up doing the like plague spreaders and reviving a lot. I also considered maybe an entire deck that's just trying to play those and then has the Catrina Muerte to try to like revive a bunch of plague spreaders. I don't know if that's quite going to be enough. So then I figured, well, maybe we'll just put that in the ETC, because the way that this deck is built, if I don't even draw any of the undeads and I draw all of the other minion types, then having Katrina Muerte in my hand is going to feel really, really terrible. So I would rather be able to only kind of pick that on games where maybe I actually will get the benefit, rather than just having a 7-mana thing in my hand that I don't really want to play for no effect. So that's why I put it in the ETC band. But yeah, this is very minion heavy. There's not a lot of spells, just those couple. Really, it's like Clean the Scene and the Shard of the Naru. But maybe I could change this up a little bit. But yeah, I kind of wanted to go for like a more heavy minion approach to Menagerie rather than the more aggressive Menagerie that I did in the previous video. And now we're going to jump over to the community deck. And this was submitted by Biss. Thank you so much, Biss, for the submission. This is an Overheal Priest. Now, looking through this already, there's a lot of differences clearly to what I had built. A lot of tools that Priest would want. I mean, Illuminate to Dredge, and there's clearly a lot of spells in here, so this seems pretty good. There's a lot of things like the Conjurer and Dreamboat, Mind Eater. These are all kind of cheap minions, the Mysterious Visitor, but they're cheap minions that will work with each other and work with that synergy of either overheal or kind of stealing your opponent's stuff. So there's kind of two synergies, it seems like, going on here with that, like, you know, the thief style and then overheal as well, which I think is pretty good because I don't think that there's honestly enough overheal to make like an entire overheal deck, right? Like it's overheal plus support and other things. Not necessarily that you can put in, not like a mech deck where your like entire deck is mechs, right? Not enough overheal yet, at least, to be able to do something like that. So I kind of like the mix of getting some other stuff from like thief style things. Seems pretty solid. Again, a lot of these very, very like versatile priest tools. I really like the Power Chord Synchronize. I think this is a really cool card. And I like that it just says choose a minion. So you maybe can choose your opponent's minion or maybe your own. And if it's finale, even if it's your opponent's, like maybe there's a benefit to doing that. But I think that's pretty cool, especially in a deck where maybe you're already stealing your opponent's stuff anyways. Maybe you want to get some extra, benefit, extra minion of something that you had already copied from them. So I definitely think that there's uses for this. It seems really cool. Of course, Thrive in the Shadows to discover is just fantastic. And the Cathedral, again, I mentioned in my deck as well, just a great choice. And if you're going to do some overheal stuff, you got to play some overheal minions. So putting in these new things like the Clergy that got changed up in the core set, the Heartthrob, the Heartbreaker Hedonis, of course, in there. And then, of course, I wanted to talk about this kind of top end, including the Harmonic Pop in here, Sister Sylvanas. So definitely looking for like lots of added value and benefit there. This is a Prince Renathal deck, so very important. I probably should have included that at the beginning, but this is a 40 card list, so there's a lot of stuff to kind of fit in the deck, but also includes this Rivendare War Rider, which I also think is kind of cool. That's a neat little like extra thing, and with the potential draw or just stall, maybe the games go that long. But this is a really interesting deck. I also love this Love Everlasting spell. I think this is a really cool legendary, and I definitely am interested to see how good this card ends up being. I think this deck has a lot of spells, and being able to play even something like a Holy Nova for only 2 mana at the start of a turn seems fantastic, right? Like, I think that sounds great. And then if you're also doing a lot of thief type stuff, you're probably going to be generating spells from your opponents as well. So it just increases the amount. And then if you play Sister Sylvanas, you'll be able to like repetitively do that. So it works really well with keeping the spells going every turn. So I think that something like this actually will get some value in the games where you might draw the Love Everlasting. But pretty neat kind of control-y thief style overheal deck. Really interested to see how this one turns out. Well, what do you think of these decks? Let me know in the comments below. And again, thank you so much to everybody for all of your support and checking these videos out. I am so glad that people have been enjoying this content, and I am so excited to keep working on even more things. So stay tuned for even more. And don't forget to check out my Twitter for a bundle giveaway. Thank you so much to Blizzard. And if you haven't already, check out the previous video here where I did some Paladin theory crafting, one of my favorite classes in addition to Hunter. So check that one out next, and I'll see you in the next one.